Hi everybody, Jo here again. How you doing? I hope you're keeping well and I hope you're ready for another little crafty play. And as you know, I like to try and bring things sometimes a bit different. I mean, sometimes we do clean and simple. Sometimes we do lots of work with backgrounds and scenes and building up landscapes. Sometimes a wreath. You know, I love a wreath card. So today we're going to do something a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit grungy, but also something I keep being asked about, vintage and cards ideas for males. So I thought I'd do something here that you could easily change up and that would make a great card for a male friend. So I've gone for a tag. But again, if you're not somebody, if you don't make tags, don't suddenly think, oh, Jo, I don't make tags, I'm not watching. Because this could be a card design, look, this could be an A6 card design. You could make it wider. It could be a 6x6 card design. It's the ideas. And the reason I've gone for a tag is, if you remember, on a Tuesday on our social media, so our Lavinia for You Facebook group and page, we have on a Tuesday, Tag Tuesday. You see, I have to think what I'm saying, sorry. But you know me, you get what I am. This is just me. And it's nice if everybody just posts a tag. And so the ideas are, you know, Tag Tuesday, pop a design up, and it's lovely because everybody comments on everybody's. So if you're not a member of those pages and groups, go and have a look. We've got Reach Out with Lavinia as well, and it's lovely because it's such a lovely friendly group. And so as I say, this is the offering for today. And it can be easily made vintage. As I say, you could make it a male design, or I've incorporated the heart because I'm thinking, you know, it could be an anniversary card. You know, there's different ways you can take it, and it's just fun to do. And I think a few of you have been in touch and said Mr. Mojo's gone on holiday, and the way to bring him back is do something fun. He can't resist a bit of fun. So the Lavinia Watercolour Tag. And this is the large size. We've got two sizes, the large and the small. And we're going to start off a couple of oxides. And this is Lost Shadow and Scorched Timber. And it's just, I love these colours. And these are great for this technique. This isn't a new technique. We've done it loads of times before. But with them having square ink pads, they're perfect. And all you're going to do is drag it across. Now, I want this quite across the middle, so I'm holding it quite flat. And because it's a non-slip matte look, my tag stays in place, which is perfect. So the lighter colour, the Lost Shadow, just straight across. And then in with the Scorched Timber. Now this, I want to keep the brown more at the edges. So I'm going to angle it up a bit more, look. And just drag at the edge. And then turn it round. And again, just drag at the edge. And I want a little bit top and bottom, so I'll drag some there and then drag some there. And then what I'm going to do with my stencil brush, and this is just a brown stencil brush. Well, obviously it's a green one, but it's the one I use for my brown inks. And I'm just going to whiz it round and just blend that ink a little bit. And then I've got Truffle. Now, because that's oxide ink and I don't have a different brush, and I know Sir Tim recommends you do, so all I'm going to do is get my Inky Binky and just wipe any excess ink off, just so I don't contaminate the ink pads. But there's so little on there. But, you know, we like good housekeeping, don't we? So Truffle ink, and I'm just going to darken that edge, look. Now, if it's a new ink pad, I recommend blending in the lid. But mine's a well-used ink pad, so. And you'll get to know your ink pads. You'll know which ink pads, what sort of colours. And I love the rich colour tones that we get there now. And what we'll do is add a little bit of water, just for a little bit of faux bleaching. Now, if you want, because you've got the ink here, look, you can... If you want to do a little bit of smooshing as well, you can pick a bit of the ink up and smoosh. And you get a real good mix there. Now, if you had a spare tag or your journal, you could smoosh that ink but we'll just tidy it up for today. Now, again, you would usually let that dry. I always recommend letting it dry. I think it looks better. But obviously for the video, we'll just give it a bit of a dry with kitchen roll and then my heat tool. So while it's drying, I can just check, how are you today? I really hope you're doing well. I know a few of you have been struggling recently. So I really hope that things are going better for you. Again, dry from the front and then whiz over to the back. Now my suggestion is, while your tag's drying, obviously I force dried it with my heat tool, stamp the open sunflower with pine cone ink on spare card and cut it out. But you'd be glad to know I've done that already, and I fussy cut mine. And just to let you know, when I'm cutting out, I cut round the edge first and then just go around and snip one way and then turn it back and snip the other. And I find that's the quickest way for me. But I didn't think you'd want to watch me doing that. But it's a lovely thing to do while your tag just dries naturally. But as I say, we'll force it dry. I mean, you could have popped in and stayed for another half an hour if you want, but I know some of you are busy. Large heart. Love this and haven't used it for a while. And we're going for the pine cone, the darker brown. It's important to look through your stamps. You know as well, if Mr. Mojo's gone, sometimes just looking through your craft stash, looking through your stamps to see which ones you haven't used for a while, it can entice him back. But also, I know a couple of you ladies are caring after husbands and loved ones that aren't well. I'm just going to put this at an angle. And I know it's difficult for you. So maybe if you've got a few minutes, get a tag, get some inks and just some stamps, and then go and do your sitting and your caring. And then maybe when they have a little nap, just come down and make yourself a background, leave it, and then even the following day, maybe stamp it up. Because I know it's not easy. But it would just give you something to take your mind off things. And I think crafting, you know, it really is good for the body and the soul. I think it just helps your mind just go to another place. I love that. And as I say, I haven't used this for a while. And the idea, I thought, look, the sunflower goes right across there, and I love that shape. So I've stamped that first because I want to stamp a couple of stamps around it. And I've gone for Tock, the clock. And I've also gone for the small compass. Now, I was thinking if this was for a retirement card, the reason I've chosen these is anything to do with time, such as, like I say, anniversary or retirement, but also anything to do with somebody travelling. You know, you're following a direction. And that's the idea I had with my choice of stamps. So to stamp these, I'm going to come in with Portobello because I don't want it the same dark brown. I want it slightly lighter, and Portobello's lovely for this. But this is a fabulous stamp for, as I say, retirement, men's cards. I'm going to stamp once there. And then I'm just going to see if I can get, probably won't, but right, I have these little things sometimes. I challenge myself. Now, don't tell anyone because you'll think I'm mad. And I just want to see, look, it was just a bit off, if I could get the centre of the stamp where the eyelet is. But you know what? These things just make me smile. And I know, I'm sorry, I know it means I'm a bit mad, but do you know what? I think we all need to just smile and enjoy our crafting. Right, so I want to pop the edge of one here, and you know, maybe I haven't got time to make myself a mask, so I've just torn a piece of copy paper, and that's roughly that sort of shape there, isn't it? So I can just stamp the clock there. There we go. I'm just going to give that a wipe before I put it down. And then the compass. I'm going to use the same ink. Very useful for any underwater cards, this. But as I say, you can use it for things like if somebody's going away travelling or a gap year. Now, just want to get it up here. So maybe if I put that there, let's have north, going north. I just want that peeping through there. Now, don't worry about that bit missing there. But you know what? What I would do is, let's move that over there, just show you. If that happens, and obviously I hadn't noticed that, just get your charcoal pencils out. And we're just going to add some shade around the heart. But I'll fuzzy that bit there. So if you have a bit like that, just get your charcoal pencils out. I was asked at a workshop a couple of weeks ago the use of charcoal pencils, and I was dying to say they get me out of trouble. Now, I use them a lot for shade, as you know, and I hadn't put any on the original one, but I'm thinking that there, where it had just misstamped, look, fuzzy that edge, and we'll make it look like we were going to do that all along. Now, I think nobody will ever know about that, will they? And my charcoal pencils, sorry, my pastel pencils, like I say, my head today, they just live under my desk. So again, if I make a little faux pas like that, I can just get them and just add that. See, I'm happy with that now. Nobody would ever know. And that's what crafting's all about. It's about just moving. And, you know, if you do something that, I know we're not supposed to say the word mistake, but for me, I did misstamp that, but that's fine. Now it looks like it's just shadow. Now, I thought the background needed a little bit more, so I've gone for a couple of stamps off the Time Flies set. And I've gone for Time Flies and the Wheel of Time. But again, I'm thinking these are ideal men's cards, retirement. We've also got Every Second Counts. Time is of the essence, and time is the most valuable thing we can spend, which it is, isn't it? If you give somebody time, if you just pop and see somebody, just spending time with them. Now, the Time Flies, I'm going to stamp in the Portobello, and I'm going to stamp that just twice. But then I'm going to come in for the larger stamp, the Wheel of Time, with Sand Dune, or Sandra Dune as we're now calling her. And that I'm going to stamp right across, but it's a lighter colour because I really want it to be part of a background, and it's all about building up. It's a little bit like when we've done a masterboard, where you just build up a background with various tones. And as I say, it's just in that background there. But if it wasn't there, you know, some parts of a design, they don't have to be right in your face. But if they weren't there, you just think there's something missing. And this we can stamp a few times. And then we'll move this out because we finished our stamping. When I looked at the design, I just thought the sunflower stands out beautifully because I love those colour tones, but it needed just something just being a little bit richer underneath. So what I did was I got my lemon drop, and just with a large brush, look, I just added. And I thought sort of mentally as well, it goes with sunflowers, the yellow, but also because it's on top of the brown. So I didn't want to use Sahara, and although that looks like Sahara, it would have been too brown, whereas the lemon drop on top of the brown gives such a lovely tone look. And it's little things like that that for me just make all the difference. So we'll glue this on, Oh, before I do, I'm going to thread my beautiful crafty yarns before I do my gluing. Now, I've chosen 3, and I couldn't tell you which pack they're out of because I just put all my packs in one bag. Now, I would just pop these through, but I know some of you struggle with that. So this little bit of black elastic that I have on my desk, if you just pop that through, look, and then put the yarn that you want to come through just on your desk, and then pull the elastic, it will bring the 3 yarns through, look, so that then I can pull those through. So that little bit of black elastic is so useful. I'm sure people wonder what it's doing, but you know, it's like your craft room. I bet you're the same as me. You have all these little things that are good for the job. Right, lovely. So, bippity boppity glue on the sunflower. Now it's the stem. So my suggestion is, when you've put the glue on, put the lid back on. I'm just going to dab the glue right to the end, but also dab it down the stem. Now, I don't want it peeping out. If any does come out, don't worry, it's a dry as clear glue. But it's just we can sort of get so that less comes out. So I want this across here, and it's important. I want, just checking, can you see? I want the base just there. So I'm going to pop that first just to follow that line there. There we go, happy with that. Lovely. Couple of little finishing tricks, and I'm going to come in with my Mangaka Opaque. This is the Zig. Give it a shake. And what you can do, and again, this is an old trick. It's not mine. It's been done for years. Just put the ink, and just going to make these lovely little, almost like white coffee stains. And what it does is it just brings the white into somewhere else. So the whole design looks more of a cohesive design. And once you do this, you know, it works well in your journal. If you're doing a journal, just want to put another one on. We need 3, don't we? So I'm thinking maybe just around that cog there. And you can do half a one. Right, happy with that. And before I add my splats, which is my last thing, I'm going to add a couple of sentiments. So I've got my lovely sentiments, and I've chosen a couple already, you'll be glad to know, because you know that takes me the longest. And I've gone for Pure and Simple and Walk Your Path. So I'm thinking I'm going to put Walk Your Path at the bottom down here, and that's nice right across there. And Pure and Simple at the top again. Oh, look, that fits nice in there. And because I've gone for the white, remember in the set you get the white, the black and the vintage. I think it just shows up nicely. Now, quite often when we're adding the splats, we tap our pen with our brush. This, I want some larger splats, so I'm actually going to flick. And it's sort of a real flick in action. You just have to watch when you flick down, because sometimes it can go get your trousers. And I like this here, look, where we've almost got a run and a flick. So I just want one across my sunflower. There we go. Right, I'm going to stop with the flicks. And we'll give this a wipe. I've just got to move my feet and stand up. It's not easy because Eric's right under my chair. But you see how we've got these lovely, and I love these almost arty bits. As I say, sometimes they're nice, clean and simple, but sometimes I love to just build up the background, and look where we've got the faux bleaching, we've got that grey underneath. And although it's not obvious because it's very brown, you need that grey almost as an undercoat. And you can just see bits of it here, look. And they're the bits I love. So it looks like we've got a piece of background card, but we've actually made that. And I just think that's lovely. And I think we've got so many different stamps that could go on that sort of idea. But also for me, it was important to get a couple out that I hadn't used in a while. But again, to use my sunflower. And I'll warn you now, the longest bit will be cutting your sunflower out. But I actually just made myself a brew. I might have got a cheeky biscuit as well. And I just sat and I actually cut the two out together. So thanks as always for joining me. If you have a go at this design or something similar, and I've got to be honest, you know, when they say happy accidents, I think I prefer this heart with the pastel pencil around it. So that was a bonus for me. So if you have a go, please tag me in and share on social media, and that way we can inspire each other, which it's all about, isn't it? So you take care, enjoy the rest of your week, be kind to each other. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.